Today I'm going to show you a game that I used to practice. It's called Quadratic Factoring. Quadratic means square in Latin. And an equation is a mathematical sentence with an equal sign in it. This is a general form of a quadratic equation, where x is our variable, a is our quadratic coefficient, and b is our linear coefficient, and c is our constant. This is a form of a quadratic equation with numbers as its coefficient and constant. To factor the given quadratic equation, we will use three tools. First is the factoring columns, which we have plus columns, minus columns, and plus minus columns. If the constant is positive, we will use plus or minus columns, which we will determine by looking at the linear coefficient. If the linear coefficient is positive, we will use the plus column. If the linear coefficient is negative, however, we only use the plus and minus columns. But we once again look at the linear coefficient. If it is positive, then we will put the bigger factors on the positive side. If it is negative, then we will put the bigger factors on the negative side. For example, this equation has a negative constant, minus 15, so we will use the columns, the plus minus columns, and because the linear coefficient is negative, we'll put the bigger factor on the negative side. Factoring any quadratic equation will start from timing the constant with the quadratic coefficient, which in this case is minus 15 times 2 equals minus 30. Then we will start factoring the minus 30 out and put all the possible pairs in the factoring columns. Do not forget that we put the bigger factor number of each pair on the negative side. The second tool we will use in factoring this quadratic equation is the magic X diagram, which consists of 4 parts: upper, lower, left, and right part. The upper part we will fill with a number that comes from timing the constant with the quadratic coefficient, which is minus 30, telling us that the chosen pair must times together to make minus 30. The lower part we will fill with the linear coefficient, which is minus 7. So the same pair that we choose has to sum up to make minus 7 as well. The left and right part will be filled with a pair number we just chosen divided by the quadratic coefficient, which is 2. Simplify the fraction, then we are ready for the final tool. The final tool will be our 2 brackets, left and right, with an X in each one. We will fill up the brackets with the numbers from the X diagram that we just finished factoring correspondingly. Put 2 in front of the X on the left bracket and positive 3 after the X. Put 1 in front of the X in the right bracket and minus 5 after the X. And this brings us to a conclusion point. And this is our quadratic factor complete.